else can see, but they're not going to tell you, so I won't start till your eyes are shut. Go like this, because I'm not that good. Okay. All right, you can open your eyes. All right, today is the Sunday of Hope, right? What are we hoping for in the Christmas season? What are you hoping for? Anybody? What do you hope for? It's going to be Christmas in how many days? Maybe 20-something? What do you hope for? Do you have a list? Yeah, you hope for Christmas presents? Yeah? So you think I got anything good up here for you? You think so? All right. All right, now, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, you got to hold up a finger of which one you want. Look around at everybody else. You can't have the same finger up. All right, we got 5 taken. We got 1 taken. We got 2 taken. We got 3 taken, and we'll have to have 4. Can you be 4? All right. So if this is cup number 1, cup number 2, cup number 3, cup number 4, cup number 5, come up and get your cup. You didn't know what you were hoping for, did you exactly? Didn't know what might be in there? Okay. What did they just tell us in the reading that we should be watching for? What should we be watching for? The owner of the house. And the owner of the house meant, can you bring up yours? Because yours is different, isn't it? And I didn't know which one was going to be which, right? So I'm not trying to be unfair, but pull that out. What does that look like? Just a box. Does it look like a present? Okay. All right. So we are hoping, we're waiting for something at Christmas time. And a lot of us think we're hoping for a bike, a new mixer, carpeting, I don't know, perfume. But there's a different present that we really are thinking about, and that represents it all. Do you want to open it up and see if we can figure out what that different present was that everybody was waiting for? What do you think? Not a piece of tissue paper. And what would that baby's name be? Jesus. And you know what? We're still hoping because there's something else coming, right? Another coming. And it's going to be different than the last time, but we're waiting and we're hoping. If you want to keep that, you can, because you didn't get anything. Thanks for coming up.
So from today's reading, Mark 13, verses 24 through 37, I was going back and doing a little bit of other reading and stuff on this book of Mark and this section of the Bible. And this chapter is often called the Little Apocalypse because it's similar to the great apocalypse of the Revelation of John. And I found out that apocalyptic literature usually comes out of difficult times and is normally delivered with a message of hope for the faithful that may be suffering now but will receive God's rewards in the end. So on verses 24, the way it starts off, it says, "But in those days following that distress." So you find that kind of interesting. What exactly is he talking about, that distress? Well, if you go back to the beginning of Mark, of the chapter there, it actually starts off with Jesus and his disciples are coming out of the temple in Jerusalem, and one of his disciples is looking, and he's kind of in awe because he says, "Look at the size of these stones in these buildings for Jerusalem." And I can imagine, when you come from a small village or a small area, you're not used to seeing structures like this or stones like this. And I can always remember, like when I was a kid, we used to go to Dallas or San Antonio growing up in West Texas. And I don't know why, but architecture, for some reason, fascinates me. It captivates me. Every time I come into a large city, I always look at their downtown. Probably shouldn't be focusing on driving, but it always draws my attention. And, growing up in West Texas, we had a couple of big buildings, but nothing like what you see in downtown Minneapolis or Dallas or any of these larger cities where the buildings are just huge. If you're downtown, they kind of block out the sun. It's hard to tell exactly even where you are. And so I can imagine for some of these other people, they're just, in amazement of this temple and all these other buildings that are around them. And Jesus responds to his disciple and says, yeah, they're big, but, remember that these buildings, he's going to predict that the temple will be destroyed one day. The temple is the center of worship and life, but its days are numbered. The new center of worship and life will be the Son of Man. So he's telling them there's a transition period that is going on right now during that period where Jesus is saying the only way for access through God is not going to be through this building. It doesn't matter if you worship in a small church, if you worship in a mega church. The access to God is only going to be through Christ himself. That is the way through God. That is the way that you do it. And his disciples asked him, well, what do you mean the destruction of the church? When is this going to happen, the destruction of the temple? So he starts telling them about signs that we're going to watch for, and that's when he starts talking about following that distress. So some of the signs that he tells them beforehand in the earlier readings is that there's going to be false prophets that will come that you'll have to watch for. There will be wars, earthquakes and famine, persecution, betrayal of family members, the abomination of desolation, which if you actually go back, that was actually fulfilled by Greek king Epiphanes that actually had destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. He actually destroyed much of the city, killed many of the people, and then they actually they took swine up onto the altar in the temple and kind of desecrated the altar and stuff there at the church. So that's what he's talking about. But then it actually goes and starts to show you other signs. The sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. But at that time, people will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great glory, and he will send his angels to gather and elect from the four winds. So he's going to have all of his faithful followers are going to get together again at one point, and we're going to be strong and unified and everything again, and that's what he's talking about there. So then Jesus goes and continues on and is talking about, he likes to teach in these parables, so he starts talking about the fig tree and talking about, the signs of the fig tree when they start to get tender and the leaves start to come out, that the summer is near. So he's just kind of telling you, you've got to be mindful. You've got to start watching for these signs of the different signs that he's been telling you about. And this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. But heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. And it's very true if you think about it, because how many generations of people have passed away, but the word of God remains? How many kingdoms have passed away? The word of God remains. How many churches have fallen, just from the old days till today? Churches have closed. There's accidents or anything like that have happened, church fires, anything like that. But all in all, it doesn't matter. The Word of God still remains. We still practice it. It's been strong since for the test of time for us. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. So be on guard. Be alert. So your spiritual alertness is just as important as your physical alertness. How many times, there's so much temptation that's out there in the world. It's hard to stay spiritually alert all the time. I can't tell you, as a huge football fan, my son is a huge football fan, how many times it would be tempting just to say, I'm going to stay home from church today because I want to get ready for the football game or whatever else. It's easy to do that, And it used to be where If I would watch the football game and the Cowboys would lose, which happens a lot lately, it would just ruin my mood for the whole day. And I know my son is the exact same way. It just ruins his mood. Don't even talk to him for a while after the Cowboys lose. Maybe. Might yell at you a little bit. But, it's one of those things you got to work on. It's just a game. Does it really matter in the life of stuff? No. Do you get passionate about things? Of course you do. But maybe you need to redirect those passions into your spiritual life and not just foolish things in your personal life that really don't matter in the end of things. It's just one of those things that you've got to be ready. You've got to know when you're going to do it. It gives you goals to work on to get ready spiritually. So then when he talks about, therefore keep watch, because you do not know when the owner of the house will come back, whether in the evening or at midnight or when the rooster crows or at dawn. If he comes suddenly, do not let him find you sleeping. When I think about don't let him find you sleeping, that's what we're talking about, spiritual awakeness. Are you going to be ready when Christ does come back? If you're not going to be ready, now is the time to kick it into gear and to start thinking. All these signs that are going around, you could look at it. We don't know that it's going to happen in a couple of years, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. Maybe you're not here, maybe your children are ready. But part of getting ready may not necessarily just getting yourself ready. It may be getting your family members ready, instilling in your children what you learned to get them ready, so that way they can instill into their children what you've also learned to get ready. So the book, the Bible is very important to read and to pass on and to give to everybody, because as we show on here, the Word of God will stand the test of time. Doesn't matter who falls. I may be here today, maybe gone tomorrow, but my kids will still know the Word of God. So that's what we're looking at there. So I say to everyone, watch. Watch for the signs. Watch to make sure that you're ready. I hope that we're all ready. And that's my message for today. Thank you.